Story 1. Men need to be able to have candid discussions about their experiences in life. It is literally life-saving, and many people want to shut it down when it happens. Not everything is a threat. Some things are just how people's lives go, and they have as much right as anyone to speak about it. Story 2. That prompting people on the internet to turn their mundane opinions into brave stances for the sake of clicks and engagement is really lame. Like genuine United States Department of Agriculture prime brain rot. Story 3. If you slow down or stop to let people in while driving instead of taking the right of way, then you are inconsiderate. Story 4. Driver's licenses need to be revoked for repeated minor infractions such as failure to properly merge, failure to use turn indicators, failure to stop at stop signs, failure to keep right when going slow, and failure to allow traffic to pass. These violations should result in fines of hundreds of dollars and points on the license that last for 3 years. Many people drive without mastering the basics. The solution is not more road infrastructure but fewer unqualified drivers on the road. When a license is lost, the driver should be required to redo all tests and training. For those who argue that people need to get to work, consider using an electric scooter or walking 2 hours each way. Story 5. People who do not clear the cook time on microwaves when they take food out early are inconsiderate. Story 6. There are 5 senses. Of those 5, you are not allowed to interact with me on 4 of them without my permission. I cannot stop you from being around in the world and me having to look at you, but I definitely do not want to hear whatever song you are listening to without headphones or your conversation through the speakerphone because you do not understand how microphones work. If I can smell you in public, we have a problem. Yes, you reek. No, you do not smell it anymore because you have gone nose-blind to your own odor. You absolutely do not get to touch me without my consent. And if I can taste you when I do not want to, what are we even doing? Story 7. If people on bicycles want to be treated with all the rights of road vehicles, they should be subject to all the restrictions as well. If I am not allowed to drive on the sidewalk in my car, neither should they. Story 8. The hill I live on. Metaphorical hills include: a man's word is his bond, reflected in his actions. Grammar and spelling. Say what you mean. Faith requires doubt. Otherwise, it is either naivete or arrogance. Story 9. People driving at the same speed in the passing lane as the traffic in the lane next to them with no one in front are the sperm cells that should never have reached the egg. Story 10. Spicy food is getting out of hand. Not everything needs to be spicy. Spicy is not a replacement for flavor. In fact, it often completely erases the flavor of the food. Story 11. Repeat offenders of moderate crimes should be exiled and stripped of all legal identification and documentation, subject to appeal within a holding period. If you break into a house, get sent to prison, then do it 3 more times, clearly rehabilitation is not working. If you truly regret it, prove it in your appeal. If you continue to be a menace to society with no remorse, living in society is not for you. Story 12. People should be able to say no without consequence at work as long as it is well supported and be able to avoid tasks that have been reasonably rejected. Getting an additional permanent task while already not having enough time to do your work is not acceptable. You are overworked and doing more than necessary. You should not fear backlash because someone higher in the hierarchy is incompetent but demanding. Story 13. Leagues. She's out of your league, brother. Don't even try. I do not believe in leagues or that some women outclass men so much that men should not attempt to talk to or court them. If you subscribe to that belief system, women are out of your league. Nobody is out of anyone's league. Story 14. Stranger Things Season 2. Episode 7 is a good episode. The placement of the episode within the season is what throws it off. But the episode itself serves a necessary purpose for the development of the protagonist. Story 15. 28 days or weeks later are not zombie movies. Disaster, apocalypse, or infection destroying the human race movies, yes. But no reanimated corpses, no zombies. Story 16. If I do not specifically ask for help on something, inserting yourself for the sake of helping is not helping at all but rather a hindrance, as now I have to manage you on top of my own work. Go away and leave me alone until I say something. Story 17. The zipper merge is the most efficient way to keep traffic flowing during a lane closure or termination, and you are a fragile person if you cannot accept that. Story 18. Changing the definition or meaning of a word to fit your narrative is not progressive, nor is using said words as a pejorative. Story 19. College athletes should not be paid. Doing so would create an imbalance in sports favoring schools with large sports budgets. Story 20. Mushrooms are unpleasant. They are primordial fungi that are older than trees and perform various complex functions. They should be banned from Earth. Story 21. We should focus on the fact that although our productivity in the workforce has skyrocketed, our salaries have not increased at the same rate. Instead of focusing on whatever social dynamics are currently popular in the media. Story 22. This might be a slightly large hill, but I would support a penalty for people who have committed certain crimes, especially violent crimes, while intoxicated. If it is also determined that such a person definitely has a drinking problem, I would support issuing that person a government identification card that does not allow them to legally purchase alcohol. You know the new system where an identification card for someone under the age of 21 has a different layout? It would probably look like that, with some type of restriction printed on it. It is possible that identification card scanners would have to become more common in certain scenarios, but this is the basic idea. There should be a certain category of crimes, and a certain number of times that they are committed, that leads to the penalty of a no sale of alcohol type of identification card. To those who are going to say people will find a way to drink anyway, that is not the point. Forcing 100% compliance is not the point. The point is to make it harder to legally acquire alcohol, and the main element of the punishment is this. Very normal social situations where you go out with people and you are just like everyone else because everyone is able to purchase alcohol, you run the risk of losing that. You have a state identification card on a permanent basis that officially says you messed up and something was taken away from you. You become the person in the friend group who is probably kind of known for that. The only way to avoid that is to not commit crimes while intoxicated. Do what you have to in order to avoid the penalty, and I do believe a lot of people would be highly motivated to avoid this penalty. You can look at it and say you will not achieve 100% success. I look at it and say this is a powerful incentive that people will absolutely care about, and it is primarily a social incentive. Story 23. Arby's is not bad. People criticize Arby's for being low quality and bad tasting. It is fast food, so of course it is going to be lower quality. I am fully aware that their roast beef contains fillers as well, but I do not mind. The same people will eat chicken nuggets with hydrolyzed soy protein without hesitation. As far as taste goes, this is more subjective, but Arby's sauce and horseradish sauce are very flavorful. I do not care what anyone says. Story 24. Boys should have bodily autonomy, and circumcision should never be performed on non-consenting minors without a clear medical necessity. Story 25. Men do not have to be sex experts or good in bed or anything. They can be comfortable being asexual or having low libido. Story 26. Nobody deserves hell, not for an infinite amount of time. Incomprehensible lengths are acceptable, as long as they are finite. Story 27. People are bitter because they are not good enough at the things they actually like to do, at least not enough to make a living. This triggers them when they see others making a fortune having fun with their passion. Story 28. Someone has to sit in the front of the movie theater. Do not come in late and try to arrange seats together by asking people to move during the movie. Story 29. I don't know if this is a small hill or a large hill, but here is my take. In college sports that are either not Olympic sports, or where that particular Olympic sport does not require amateurism, that sport should absolutely get out from under the banner of the National Collegiate Athletic Association while enrolling and providing scholarships to athletes that have some professional background. The sport where this could make the biggest difference is soccer, or football to many outside the United States, but it could have a significant impact on basketball as well. I think that is the right move in the name, image, and likeness environment, and it is not for every Division I program, but there absolutely should be a level of competition for schools that want to go that route and have that type of spend. Story 30. Promotion of gambling has tarnished the sport I watch. People who talk about how much they lost and clog up game threads are pathetic. Story 31. There is no moral reason to not feed a child. I do not care if the parents should have done it. I do not care if the child is 17 years old and should have a job to feed himself. I do not care if the child is a billionaire trust fund baby. If anyone tries to convince you otherwise, whether a president, a king, a preacher, or a god, the person trying to convince you is simply evil. Story 32. A lot of people, including Webster and Wikipedia, claim that cappuccino is called cappuccino because the espresso is mixed with milk to match the color of the Capuchin monk's robes. I find that explanation boring and cringeworthy. Firstly, there is no reason why that should be the case. This color could just as easily be described as leathery or light brown, or compared to someone's shoe, someone's horse, or Victor Emmanuel II's beard. The comparison and implication that the name of the drink is derived from these monks' robes seem entirely arbitrary. Secondly, cappuccinos are lighter than the robes worn by Capuchin monks. These robes do exist in a light brown shade but are much more commonly a dark chocolate brown, which is still on display today at the Capuchin crypt in Rome. Thirdly, Capuchin monks got their name because cappuccio in Old Italian means hood, cloak, or cowl, from the Latin cappa. The monks wore hooded robes, so it was a way to describe them because the hood was the main recognizable attribute of their dress. Similarly, the distinguishing feature of a cappuccino, as opposed to another similar drink like a café latte, is that the cappuccino has a layer of milk foam on top of the drink. The milk foam effectively acts as a hood for the drink. Wikipedia mentions that the name is in fact not from the hood but from the color of the robe. The only source cited for this is Merriam-Webster, which does not cite its sources and simply states that it was because of the color. Aside from this, every source I found says, which supposedly resembles. So to me, this seems like a mistake swept up in the internet's favorite game, the erroneous footnote copy-paste bonanza. So instead of the name stemming from a simple color comparison, would it not make more sense that the name comes from the characteristic that distinguishes it from other drinks, which, shockingly and coincidentally, is rooted in the name's own etymology? Story 33. I worry about how much children are medicated for various issues today. I have autism and I also likely have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I was never medicated as a child because my mother wanted to try other approaches first. I feel like today medications are a first resort rather than a last resort. That worries me given the side effects of these drugs. I am not against medications at all. I just believe they should be a last resort. On a lighter note, pineapples belong on pizza, and no one will convince me otherwise. Story 34. Humans are harmful to the planet, animals, and each other. We are the reason we cannot have nice things. Story 35. The obesity epidemic is the biggest contributing factor to why the dating market in the United States is struggling. According to statistics from 2017 to 2018, 73.6% of the U.S. population was either overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. By 2025, this figure is estimated to rise to between 75% and 80%. That means 3/4 of the population falls into one of these categories. If this percentage were reduced to between 0% and 10%, it would increase the number of attractive individuals in the dating market. This would create more opportunities for both men and women to find suitable partners. Additionally, reducing obesity rates could decrease traffic to the adult entertainment industry, thereby improving the overall health of the dating market for everyone. Story 36. COVID-19 should still be considered a major illness, much worse than a cold or influenza, as it continues to disable healthy people 5 years later, and there are no cures for long COVID. As someone with long COVID, unable to walk more than half a mile 2 years later, I understand the severity. With respect and sympathy for those who were vaccine injured, the claim that all long COVID cases are caused by the vaccine is incorrect and misleading. Story 37. David Carradine died in Thailand under controversial circumstances. Story 38. My boss is like Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams. He built it, but no one came out of the corn to play. Now it is a money pit. Story 39. All of those automatic flushing urinals took photos of every man's private area so it could be identified for future use. Story 40. I am bisexual and my partner is a gay man. However, we do not support most lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, asexual, and two-spirit plus issues because some of them are not grounded in reality. The video below explains the issues I have with some of it well. Story 41. You are 8 out of 10 times better off buying from a larger company than shopping small. I am not paying $18 for frozen microwave meals from Walmart at a restaurant. This is way more common than you think. Story 42. Helter Skelter was the first heavy metal song, and if the Beatles had made a whole album like that, they would have been the first heavy metal band. Story 43. It does not matter what you eat in the morning. It is breakfast. Where are the chickens, cows, and pigs raised for breakfast? Where are they bred? Story 44. Lay your hands on my property and you will have an accident with a network cable. Registered Jack 45. Category 7. Red nylon enclosure, 2 meters in length. Story 45. Provocation is nearly as bad as the violence it causes. Yes, people are responsible for their actions, but others should not shout bomb on a plane or fire in a theater just to provoke people or for laughs. Popping balloons behind combat veterans is also inappropriate. Yelling the N-word as a white man in many places will likely result in a confrontation. Story 46. Streaming services are not competing with each other. They are competing with piracy. With the constant decline in the quality of their services and price increases, they are losing. Story 47. I am not allergic, but peanut butter is highly overrated. Tastes warm, I do not know. Like if warmth has a physical taste. Story 48. There is a small hill in the field behind my house that has a pretty nice view and soft grass. I guess that one would be okay to go out on. Story 49. All vehicles operating on public roads should be subject to the same safety, noise, and light standards and restrictions. There should be no speed cameras in a given jurisdiction until every traffic light has a red light camera. Story 50. Even though I grew up Christian and am now spiritual, I despise most Christians due to their hypocritical, judgmental, and Bible-thumping ways. I have actually had more positive interactions with Muslims than with Christians. Story 51. If you ride an electric bike without pedaling, you should just get a motorcycle. You do not want a bike, you want a powered vehicle. Story 52. If you are not spending quality time with your partner, they are not your partner. If you want to know what is important to a person, what they spend their money on, and their time will tell you what that is. Actions speak louder than words. Story 53. It should not be assumed that every Reddit user is American unless specified otherwise. Reddit is a global website. Story 54. If you add beans to chili, you now have spicy stew. According to the International Chili Society, traditional red chili is any kind of meat, or combination of meats, cooked with red chili peppers, various spices, and other ingredients. Beans and non-vegetable fillers such as rice and pasta are not allowed. Story 55. I am not putting a front license plate on my car. I worked really hard to be able to ride in style, so I am not going to put an ugly piece of metal on the front of it. I will pay the ticket every single time. Story 56. Feminism is negatively impacting society, especially for women. More than 500,000 women are harmed every year due to the feminist push for abortion rights, even though only around 3,000 abortions out of 1 million last year were necessary for the health and life of the mother. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.